What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now Plus. I'm Alex. In this video, I want to talk about the story that Like a Dragon Gaiden, the man who erased his name, is not going to have the English dub on release. So obviously the game comes out in under a month from now, November 9th. I'm getting so freaking excited. I've talked about this game quite a few times. However, there's a couple ways of handling, I would say, this news of the English dub not being there. I will say on one side of things, I really don't care. From the side of, I'm not going to play it that way regardless. And this is something I've said in the past. For these games, normally I would probably listen to the English dubbing over it. However, when I first started this series this past year, started with Yakuza 0 and went all the way through 6, I played the Japanese voices and I fell in love with it. I am actually at the point now, and again, I've said this a few times in the past, I'm at the point now where there's absolutely no way that I would ever want to hear, say, Kiryu, right, the return of our main man. I would not want to hear his voice in any language besides the, I would say, like, quote unquote intended. It's the way that it was, originally recorded, let's say the Japanese version, right? Look, I'm not a big fan of what we've heard so far from the English voice of Young Ya. I don't really care about him so much as a YouTuber. I've watched his stuff here and there. Again, I'm not a real big fan. It's not like I hate the guy. In terms of the voice acting, I'm not a fan. And again, it just comes off to me as there's zero chance I would ever do this in the first place. But again, there's more than one way of looking at it. I do want to kind of be respectful to the other side. I will say this could be another sign that, is this game underbaked? Is this game not being given the attention, basically, that maybe it deserves? And what I mean by that is taking out my personal preference, right? So while I don't care, and I don't even think the English work of Kiryu is all that great, and I also would never play it in English. I'd only do the Japanese. Number one, that's just me. Number two, there's many other people on planet Earth, and I'm sure that would stop people. I would honestly say everybody should just give it a chance. Give it a chance, and maybe you'll like it, maybe you won't. But I do think it's fair to say, factually, there's people that will ignore this game, or maybe they won't even buy it, right, until it gets patched in at a later date. And that's what's happening, right? Not coming day one, but it's getting patched at some point in the future, and there's not even a date for that. So, on one side of things, it would maybe hurt the sales. I actually can't imagine that the sales would remain unaffected by this news, because you do have people that would say, I'm just not doing that. That will happen. So that's something you just kind of have to think about. But number two, now look, maybe these two things aren't connected, but the idea that, it's not given the love, or it's not given the care, or underbaked or whatever. So a pretty substantial part of the game being an English dubbing, right? Now, it's not like a literal portion of the game. It's not like Act 2 of the game is like missing or anything, but, playing it in a different language is not there at launch. The game is digital only. It's not even physical. So there's just, I will agree to that. The people that say, well, there's kind of signs that, what's going on? Like, what is Sega doing with this specific game? I get that. I've long been a defender of physical media. We've talked so much about that on the channels, and Alan Wake 2 and this game, The Man Who Erased His Name, these are two it's debatable how gigantic, right? Because Alan Wake is more of like a cult classic thing that's kind of grown over time, and these games have gotten bigger and bigger, but this being something that I feel like people might skip out on, even though it's the return of Kiryu Kazuma, and I don't know how you could skip out on it. It's not a mainline entry, right? This isn't Infinite Wealth. It's not 7. It's not 6. So maybe people will skip out on it. But at the same time, these are two pretty sizable games that are releasing actually like a week and a half apart from each other in the fall that are not coming out physically. So that already was something that I did not like whatsoever. I've spoken out against it for both of those games, actually. For as big of a fan as I am of Alan Wake and the Yakuza franchise, I've been very, very vocal that I think those are bad moves. So I don't know if that's necessarily a sign of lack of care or the game's not ready, right? Like that specific thing. I honestly believe the physical thing is a choice. They made a choice to say we're removing that. It could have been for costs. It could have been logistics that we don't know about. I personally believe that, but if you want to throw at me the argument that it just doesn't seem like it's ready and they're maybe rushing it, I think there's an okay argument to be made there. But in regarding, again, the English dubbing thing, which is like the new news to the game, personally, I don't care, but I do see the side of it's a pretty big portion, again, like an alternate language of the game that you're not having day one, and you don't even have a date for it. So that is a big deal, even if I could truly care less and would never play it in the first place. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.